Hello everyone, my name is Paul Roberts and I want to tell you a most amazing story. It's a story of intrigue and illicit affairs that happened over 200 years ago, with changes in names, and it involves the Industrial Revolution in England and military service in India, the last Zulu War in South Africa, and then the greatest diamond rush that ever occurred, and then the gold rush to the Witwatersrand in Johannesburg. And the identity of the hero of the story and of his parents and grandparents were all discovered using DNA. This is the story of my great-grandfather, Richard Charles Roberts. I had now discovered that my thoroughly English great-grandfather, Richard Charles Roberts, was actually 3/4 Italian. He was born Luigi Pietro Apollinari in Birmingham, England, but his mother was half Italian. Her father, Luigi Agostini, came from Lucca, Italy, and Richard Charles Roberts' father, Luigi Apollinari, was born in the village of Borgo Valditaro in the Parma region of Italy. As a matter of interest, here is an 1855 map of Italy, and the provinces were quite different then, but here is Parma, and Borgo Valditaro is down there. The city of Florence is over here, and there is this city of Lucca, and the little village where I think the Agostinis came from is up here. So this is the region of Italy. 1855, Luigi Apollinari Sr. had already left Italy and had just arrived in London, but this was the Italy that he knew. So I just want to show you my own ethnicity from my DNA on Ancestry.com. This is my kaleidoscope of DNA. This is my ethnicity. As you can see, it's complicated, and this is a good reason to send in your oldest relative's DNA if you can possibly do it. I would never have been able to trace all of this with my own DNA, but sending in my dad's helped focus the search. So I have got a whole mixture of DNA from my mom and a mixture from my dad, so it's all combined in here. And one thing some people find it difficult to understand is why, well, there's such a huge area of DNA, but I've only got a little bit of Russian DNA. Well, that's no reflection on the amount of DNA I have. If I highlight over there, you can see it's Eastern European, Europe, and Russia, and it's only 10%. But it's because there aren't millions of Russians sending in their DNA to Ancestry.com. So if they do over the next decades, then Russia will be divided up into many, many more areas of ethnicity. But because of my Eastern European relatives from Poland and Czech Republic, that encompasses all of Russia. I have 30% Germanic, England 20%. That's because even though my DNA from my dad was small on England, my mom had a large English heritage from her 1820 settlers on her mother's side of the family. Then there's the 10% from Eastern Europe and the Baltics, 9%. Scotland, no idea where that came from. I love Scotland, but I have not got a single Scottish relative on my tree. Sweden, Denmark, well, that's all the Danes in Holland and England and even Normandy in France. Norway, Cameroon, Congo, Western Bantu peoples, 1%. I'll show you that on my tree. That's interesting. But I do have 8% Northern Italy. If I hadn't had my dad's DNA, that would have confused me, because in all my mom's tree, which we have traced in pretty much every direction, there's no Italians. And that's what I'm getting from my father from the Parma region. Slavery was abolished in the Cape Colony by the British on the 1st of January 1834, so 190 years ago. But in the early days of the settlers in South Africa, some slaves were brought from West Africa and from Ceylon and India. When the first explorers went around the Cape, the Portuguese explorers were the first to go around. The first settlers were the Dutch, and the Dutch East India Company was trading with India, and they set up a farming settlement at the Cape to supply the ships. And they brought slaves from West Africa down to the Cape to work on the farms. So the Dutch sailors who settled there took slave wives, and so there is slave ancestry in many of the Dutch families. On my tree, there are a few slaves in the past, and I've indicated them by this image of slaves in the Cape. And they just have a first name, and they say Van Ceylon, or Van Guinea is another slave I have from Guinea in West Africa. This slave is from Ceylon. And this Jan is my 10th great-grandfather. So I can trace him all the way down, generations and generations through the past, down to Caterina Maria Ferreira, to Dorothea Isabella Ferreira, my great-grandmother, and from there down to my grandmother and my mom. So in various parts of my tree, there are some slaves in the distant past, and that explains that 1% African DNA. Now, to get back to the Apollinari saga. As I said before, I had pretty much given up, thinking there was no way I'd be able to trace records in Italy, and whether they even existed for those tiny little churches in Parma. That was the end of the road. But I'd gotten this far researching my ancestry without really looking at any YouTube videos. And I started thinking, well, maybe I might find something on YouTube that might help. So I started searching for Italian ancestry on YouTube, and I found Krista Cowan's videos, and I've watched many of them, and Devon Lee's videos on DNA, and many other YouTube videos. And on one of Krista Cowan's videos, I think it was hers, she was speaking to someone from Family Search, and they said that not all the records are searchable because they haven't been indexed and they haven't been translated, but they are on microfilm in the library at familysearch.org. And they can be searched online using the catalog or the research wiki. And the research wiki was explained to me. And I thought, well, there's very little chance that these will be on there, but I'll have a look on that research wiki and see what I can find. And wow, Borga Val di Taro was on the research wiki. It was late in 2022 that I first started using the search wiki on familysearch.org. This is my page on Family Search, and if you just click on search, there are various options, and the search wiki is at the bottom, and I clicked on that, and I wanted to look in Europe and then in Italy, and then in Emilia-Romagna, and then in Parma. This only works if you know the village you're looking for and you can focus in on it. And then I would click on Records for Italy, Parma, and this is an error. Something's wrong with the site now. It's saying United States, Alabama, Tuscaloosa, but it's giving Emilia-Romagna details. But in the past, when I clicked on it, I'd get all the towns listed, over 100 of them, in Parma. And then I went down and clicked on Borgo Val di Taro. But unfortunately, that's not working now, and you can't get to the site easily going through these other records. So the best way to do it is to go to the catalog. And you can just say search and go directly to the catalog and type in Borgo Val di Taro, and it comes up with these options. So I click on that and search. And then it says places within Italy, Emilia-Romagna, Parma, Borgo Val di Taro. Here are the Borgo Val di Taro church records. If you click on that, it tells you there are church records from 1565 to 1990. So that's what I'm looking for. Click on that, and you get a list of all these records. The camera shows you that they are online. We can look at them. Here's baptisms from 1565 to 1601, 1621, there's a gap, 1621 to 1659. But usually you'll find those ones in the gap filled in somewhere else. So there's all these baptisms listed through the 1700s, the 1800s. And I knew Luigi Apollinari Sr. was born in 1825. So here's baptisms 1870 to 1832. So if I looked in there, I should find the birth of Luigi Apollinari Sr. So I click on it, and this is what you find. These are the microfilm images. And there's many, 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 many of them. But each section has a label at the beginning, a page like this. And if you click on it, you see it says these are baptisms from 1770 to 1786 in Borgo Val di Taro. Now we go back to the general page. So that's only going up to 1786. And if you scroll down, so these are all those baptisms they just mentioned, and there's many, many of them. You can see another title page and another title page. At the end of the section, it tells you what was in that section. So it's the same as that first page with the baptisms 1771, to 1786. And then at the beginning of the next section, it'll tell you what's in that section. So you can click on it and see, oh, this is 1786 to 1808. Still too early for us. So we work our way down, and I should speed this up a bit here. There's just so many of them. Again, baptisms 1809 to 1832. That's our section. He should be in here. So it goes up to 1832, so 1825 will be near the end. So we'll get down to the end. Lots of babies were born in Borgo Val di Taro. There's the end. So this is 1832, 31, 30. So somewhere back here, let's just have a look. Now, this is the date. So, and there's the date of the next one. So the next thing is you have to be able to read the Latin and work out what the date is. Anno Domini milligesimo or something. That's 1,800. So 18 vigesimo quattro, 24. 1824, and he is 1825. So then you just have to search through record by record until you get to 1825. So click on next to see the next page. And we can just look and see what date we're at. Still, 24, 24. For 24. And 25, we're in 1825. So now we're going to be looking for his birth record in 1825. And I went through them all. Luigi Apollinari was not here. In fact, going through record after record after record, I didn't see any Apollinaris. There's a Ferrari, a Vigali, a Noblini. Here they've got 1825 labeled, but no Apollinaris. It was quite depressing. Here I had done this major search, finally been informed by another relative or descendant of Luigi Apollinari that he was born in Borgo Valditaro, and he was not. He's not here. But the moral of this story is, don't give up. If we go back to searching for Borgo Valditaro in the catalogue, there are places. I clicked on the record for Borgo Valditaro. He wasn't there. But if we click on places within Italy, Parma, Borgo Valditaro, there are other little hamlets around in that valley, up and down the valley. There's Brunelli, Cafaraccia, Porsigatone, and all of these. Maybe he wasn't born in the town, but in one of these little hamlets. So I looked at the map of the Borgo region on Google Earth, and here's Borgo Valditaro, and I saw these little places. There's Brunelli, there's Porsigatone, there's Cafaraccia. So these were very nearby. So why don't I search in these nearby churches and see if I can find him? And I did. I found all the Apollinaris lived between Brunelli and Porsigatone. That's where all their births, baptisms, and everything took place. So I clicked on Porsigatone and I went to the churches. And it tells me that this is the church of Saint Peter the Apostle, San Pietro Apostolo, in Porsigatone. And there's a bunch of records that are visible. Unfortunately, some of the records are available on microfilm at the Family Search Center. That means a trip to Salt Lake City. But these records are here. So, early baptisms, early marriages, matrimony, baptism, morti, death records, baptisms, 1702, baptisms. There's baptisms, 1806 to 1829. That's when Luigi might have been born. But if we're looking for this role, we can see the first section is going to be baptisms, the second marriage, the third death, the next baptisms, the next marriage, and then the baptisms that we want. So it's going to be way down that row of microfilm. So we get back into the microfilm and we have to work our way down. And I will just skip there. And finally we got to this section, And there's a title there, and it tells us these are the parish records of San Pietro Apostolo in Portigatone, and the baptisms from 1806 to 1829, the marriages from 1806 to 1828, and the deaths from 1806 to 1829. So this is where they start. Starting in 1806, working our way down. Let's see where we are. 21st, 1821. So I've got to go down a little further. And here we are in the record, and we're getting close to the date. Anno Domini 18 Quinto, 1825. And fortunately, this priest wrote the names of the baby being baptized up front, so we can see no Apollinari, but we're getting very near. And if we click onto the next page, there is a Luigi Apollinari. And if we zoom in on him, here we see 25, 29, 29 October. So 29th of October, 1825, this baby, infant baby, was baptized, and he was the son of Donato Apollinari, who was the son of Stefani Apollinari and Antonia Zazzi, and the mother was Celestina Lazzari. She was daughter of Antoni Lazzari and Domenica Fenaroli. So the baptism tells us who the parents were and who the grandparents were. So that's really helpful. And then there's witnesses and stuff. But we now know here is the baptism record of Luigi Senior Apollinari, who left Borgo Valditaro and went to England and went to London and then abandoned his wife and went to Birmingham and called himself Luigi Rolandi. And I had found the Latin record of his birth from a church record in Portigatone. I was amazed. Here is an example of a marriage record. This is the marriage record of the parents of Luigi Apollinari, his father Donato or Donati Apollinari, and his mother Maria Celestina Lazzari. And it was in Anno Domini 1800, 1821, di 14th, 14th of February. So 14th of February, 1821, they were married also in Portigatone. And once you've looked at a few of these records, you get to realize the first part is more sort of church information of the diocese, of the Domini of Brunelli and Cafaraccia and all that, the neighboring towns. And it comes down to it saying a marriage in Portigatone between Donatum Apollinari, son of Filium Stefani and Antoni Zazzi, born in the parish of Brunelli, and Maria Celestina Lazzari, who's the daughter of Antoni Lazzari and Domenica Fenaroli, born in the parish of Cafaraccia. So the marriage certificate or record tells us who their parents were and where they're from. Now I can go to those parishes for 18 to 25 years before and search for the record of their births, and I will find them. This is a photo I took of Borgo Val di Taro when I was visiting there in May 2022. And I explored the town, I visited the churches, thinking this is where they came from. But now, having discovered the original records online with FamilySearch.org, I knew exactly where they came from. And I found, tracing many of the records, the family were married and buried at both Brunelli and Portigatone. And in this photograph, you can see the church at Brunelli right there. And Portigatone is just around the ridge of the hill over here. And Cavariccia is just on the other side of this hill. So the family must have lived on these farms here. We know they were farmers, and they must have been in this region. And I intend going back to Borgo Val di Taro and visiting these churches and the church at Portigatone. Maybe I will find a tombstone. I can now show the final tree with the real names of my ancestors. There is me, my dad, my grandfather, and Richard Charles Roberts, Luigi Pietro Apollinari. His last wife, my great-grandmother, Maria Sophia Brousseau, Mary Agnes James, his first wife in South Africa, and Anne Hinsley, the wife he left behind in Birmingham. And then his father, Luigi Apollinari, and his border lodger, Emily Thomas, his first wife in London, Rose Vaughan, who had the daughter Celeste, Susan Agostini, the mother of Luigi Pietro. And then his parents, Donato Apollinari and Maria Lazzari. And I have traced their families and found their ancestors going back and going back on both sides, back to Bartholomew in 1637 and his father Stefano. Back down here at the Donato and Maria Celestina Lazzari, the parents of Luigi, I found that I hit a block, another stone wall at Domenica Fenaroli, since those files showed they were only available at the library in Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City no longer sends the spools of film out to their libraries in local areas. So I made a trip to Salt Lake City early 2023 and went through those films, and I was able to find the missing records and trace back the families of Domenica Fenaroli. So I have built in an entire Italian family going back into the 1600s using the Latin records. Finally, before I go, I should mention the worldwide tree on FamilySearch.org. It's on the screen behind me. It is a communal tree that we can all share in online. And since we are all eventually related and will be cousins somehow, it's a great way to share our information. Some people don't like it because others can get on and change the information we've put onto the tree. But if we have the proper resources and can prove what we've stated, then I don't think anyone will change it. So I think it's a great benefit, since the tree won't disappear when we die. It'll be there permanently so that anyone else can use it and see the information we've gathered. So I have put all the Italian information on there. I've scanned every document I found and added it to this tree, so it's all there to be found.
In the next episode, we will talk about how I've gone even further back in history. We've gone as far as the written records pretty much will take us, and then I've gone back tens of thousands of years using Y-DNA. And also, there was one final surprise that was the cherry on top of this entire project.